Hey, yo, what is up, everybody? Coach Chad here, CEO of the Next Level Coaching Academy, creator of the Fit CEO podcast with Chad Molyneux, and creator of the Assistant Coach Academy as well. Hopefully, you guys are doing freaking fantastic. I'm back in Austin. Thank God. It's been like 3 weeks since I've been in Austin. I was in Connecticut. And then we were supposed to go to the Imagine Festival. The Imagine Festival got canceled the night of. And then we booked a last minute trip to Lost Lands Festival. We did that. And now we're back here. Thank God. All right. So this one's going to be a little shorter. I just got back like literally maybe an hour ago. And to be honest, I am freaking exhausted. And you guys know how I get when I'm exhausted. I lose my train of thought. I start talking about random things like I am right now. And they're not always the best podcasts. So I'm going to keep this one short, but that doesn't mean that it's not valuable. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is I'm going to be breaking down the spousal objection with you guys. All right. Because this seems to be the one that gives people the most trouble. It's the stickiest of situations. It's probably the hardest objection to overcome, but you're definitely able to overcome it. All right. So let's break it down. All right. So you're on the phone, you're about to close a deal, and then somebody says, oh, I got to talk to my spouse or whatever it may be. All right. So I'm going to give a couple of tips, and then I'm actually going to work through a script as well. All right. So tip number one, this is like beginner level, is on your type form, on your pre-call application, you should ask these questions. All right. I'm actually going to pull up the exact questions. So hold on while I fill the air in the room. All right, give me literally 2 seconds, guys. I'm just pulling up a pre-call application. All right, where is a pre-call application? All right, here is one. All right, we're good. Okay, so 2 questions that you guys should have on your pre-call application. If you don't know what a pre-call application is, really quickly, it's an application that you send before your closing call to gather some information. All right, so 2 questions that you could put on there to be preemptive is this. Do you feel you're able to make a decision on your own, yes or no? Number 2, will you need a significant other involved in your decision making, yes or no? All right, so what this does is it's going to help you gather information on if anybody else needs to be involved in the decision-making process. Okay. Why is that important? One of the aspects of closing a deal is all decision makers need to be involved in the process. If there's only one decision maker, great. But if there's multiple decision makers, they all need to be involved in the sales process so that they can make that decision on their own, right? Because as you guys know, maybe this happened to you, but you're going through the program, you pitch the price, they say, oh, got to talk to my spouse. And you're like, crap, man, I wish he or she was on the call so they can hear literally everything that I was saying. All right. So the purpose of having these 2 questions is to get that data before that happens, before you literally go on a 1-hour call, talk about the program, talk about the price, and then get told that they have to go tell their spouse about everything. All right. So what these questions can do, like I said, it gives you the information. When you have the information, one of the things that you can do to combat this objection from happening is if you get your form back and the person says that they can't make the decision on their own, and yes, they will need their significant other involved in the decision-making process, you can reach out before the call and you can say something to the effect of this. You can say, hey, just went over your form, loved everything, super excited, saw that your spouse has to be involved in the decision-making process. That gets me so jacked up. I love when spouses support each other, in investing in themselves or improving their health or whatever you want to say there. And then you can say, we do spousal calls together. The reason we do this is so that your spouse can support you through this process and have an understanding of exactly what you're getting into so that there's no questions asked. Is tomorrow at blank time, whatever time the original call date was going to happen, does that time still work for both you and your significant other? If they say yes, great. If they say no, reschedule and make sure that they're both on that call together. Once more, recapping this point, the reason you want to do that is so the spouse is on the call, they hear everything that their spouse hears, and they can make an informed decision together. Okay. So that's one way. One way to handle this is to do it preemptively. All right, here's the second way that you can handle this. And if you guys are watching on YouTube and you see my eyes looking everywhere, it's because I'm referring to a lot of notes and docs that I have. All right, so here's the second way that I've handled this and done it really successfully. You're on the call, you go through everything, you go through the program, you go through the price, and they tell you, oh, I think I'm going to have to talk to my spouse. I've done this. It is a ballsy move, but it works. You say, hey, no problem. I totally get that, right? So always be agreeable is the first rule of sales, right? The reason you want to be agreeable is because if you're defensive, you're never going to close anybody. So always agree what they say. All right. So you're going to say, absolutely, wouldn't expect anything else other than you having to talk with your spouse. That makes complete sense. Are you cool with if they're home, right? So sometimes I do all my sales calls on Zoom, or I did all my sales calls on Zoom. So sometimes I could see the spouse in the background, or I would straight up ask, like, is your spouse home? And if they say yes, or I did see the spouse in the background, then I would literally ask them to put me on pause, put me on mute, go have a conversation with the spouse, and then come back with a decision. Believe it or not, you may be like, holy crap, Chad, that's so terrifying. Like, I don't know if I could ever do that. Believe it or not, I would say literally probably 60 to 70% of the time, they would say, yeah, no problem. And then they would literally put me on mute. Sometimes I'd wait there for 10 minutes. I would come back and I would have a decision. All right. And I can't tell you, there's been a ton of times where they come back and they say, yep, we're doing this. Or I can even count a few times where they came back, the wife or husband came back too, and then they signed up together. So I was like, yes, obviously there's been some times where, the wife or spouse said no, and then we would schedule a follow-up. And then, from there, after that original call, I'd provide them with as much information as possible. And then on the follow-up, hopefully close. But the strategy that I just went over, where you're asking them to, go have a conversation with their significant other, has worked more times than not. All right. If the spouse is not home, you can ask them to make a quick phone call. That one has also worked for me as well. All right. So once again, what that is they say they got to talk to their spouse. You agree. You say, I wouldn't expect anything less. If you know the spouse is home, if you don't know the spouse is home, you can always ask and say, is your spouse home? If they say yes, you could say, awesome. Would you mind, putting me on mute? You guys could have a 10-minute conversation. You could take as long as you need. I can even give you guys a little, some details, and then I'll be waiting right here. Come back and we can have a decision on if we're going to move forward or not. People are usually pretty respectful and they do that. All right. So what to do if they say no? All right. If they say no, then my recommendation is we can work through the objection script that I'm about to go to. But if it's a hard no, and you have to schedule a follow-up, here's my tips. Schedule the follow-up, figure out what the significant other needs. All right. So say, yep, totally fine with scheduling a follow-up. What does your significant other need? How much information do they need? Do they need testimonials? Did they need me to record a video of the program? Do they need the recording of this call? Do they need to talk to clients? Like, figure out exactly what would help win that person over, and then do all of it. All right. If they want to talk to a client, set up a call to talk to a client. If they want a recording of the program, record them a private video of the program. If they want the recording of the call, send them the recording of the call. All right. So if you're doing a follow-up, make sure they have a ton of information so that the husband or wife actually has something tangible to look at in order to make an informed decision. Because if you don't do that, the only decision that the spouse is going to make is how much the program costs, because the wife or the husband is going to go to the wife or the husband and they're going to say, hey, was just on the phone with a fitness trainer. It's $2,000 for 4 months. I really want to do it. And then the husband or the wife is going to be like, yeah, I'm not paying that money, right? They're only going to make a decision on the dollar sign. They're not going to make a decision on what the value actually is. So that's the purpose of setting the information if you are going to do a follow-up. Okay. Here's a little scripture that I'm going to go through with you guys. All right. So the first couple of ways that we talked about it, being preemptive is successful. Asking them to have the conversation right then and there is successful. Here's another way that you can handle it. All right. So giving you a couple of different ways that you can handle this objection. All right. So, looking at my script really quickly. All right. So yeah, I wrote a little note here that says, you want to build off of past agreements. All right. So the way that you handle the spousal objection, if you're going to go into objection handling and not do the other methods that I talked about, is you're going to build off of past agreements, which means You're going to build off of past experiences that the couple has gone through together that is similar to this, similar size investment, similar size commitment. Maybe they've gone through fitness programs before. You're going to use that as leverage. All right. The other little note that I wrote here is this only works if their relationship is good. If they have a horrible relationship, it's not going to work. Okay. So they bring up the spouse. Here's what you're going to say. We're not going to read this word for word. Does your spouse support you reaching, insert the goal that they want to reach? All right. So putting that in real time, I would say, awesome. Hey, totally get that. Wouldn't expect anything less. Let me ask you a quick question. Does your spouse support you wanting to lose these 30 pounds? Much different question than asking this, because this is what most people ask. Most people say, does your spouse support you in making this investment? Totally different question than saying, does your spouse support you in reaching, insert whatever the goal is, right? Totally different question, because you're going to get a yes to my spouse supports me reaching this goal much more than you're going to get a yes that does your spouse support you in making this investment. Okay. So that's a big nugget right there. All right. So they're going to say yes. Right. If they say no, like I said, probably not a good fit, probably not a good relationship, probably not somebody that you want in your program anyways. All right. But assuming they say yes to that question, go for the close. All right. So go for the close. You're going to say, it's like, yes, absolutely. They support me in wanting to lose these 30 pounds. Say, awesome. So if your spouse supports you in wanting to lose these 30 pounds and you believe that we can help you achieve losing these 30 pounds, isn't it reasonable to believe that your spouse is going to support you in doing this? All right. If they say yes, then you're going to say, great. Then what are we waiting for? Close the deal. All right. So let's say they say no. All right. So let's say they say no to, does your spouse support you in investing? Does your spouse support you in reaching this goal? All right. If they say no, what you're going to do is this. All right. You're going to say, totally. Has your spouse supported you before, or has your spouse supported you in something before, right? Maybe a previous career, maybe a previous hobby. This is working off of past agreements, right? So remember how I said you're going to work off past agreements, off things that they supported each other in the past about. That's what I'm talking about here, right? So does your spouse support you in reaching X goal? They say no, you're going to say totally. What has your spouse supported you in the past? Maybe a previous career, maybe a hobby, so on and so forth, right? So get them to say something specific. My spouse supported me when I wanted to run a marathon. Great. Okay. Now you have something to work off of. So now what you're going to say is you're going to say, awesome. So that's super cool that your spouse supported you in wanting to run a marathon and you did it and you guys worked through that together. I think that's awesome. Out of curiosity, what makes his level of support any different here? Okay, so it makes logical sense, right? Spouse supported in something before. What's the difference here? I can promise you there's only 3 differences. All right, there's only 3 reasons that a spouse would not support. All right, and these are those 3 reasons. And the goal of asking these questions, I should have said this before, the goal of asking these questions is to get answers and get more specifically, what is the issue? What is the problem here so that I could work through this? All right, so here are the 3 different scenarios. Scenario number 1, it could be money. Spouse doesn't believe that it's a worthwhile investment. Number 2, spouse doesn't trust the program or the company. Or number 3, spouse doesn't trust that the spouse that wants to do the program will actually follow through. All right, so here are the 3 different things that you can do depending on what scenario it is. All right, so if it's if it's money, then what you're going to do is you're going to problem solve by working off their past agreements. So I would say, have y'all made an investment of a similar size before? Most likely it's going to be yes, right? Most fitness programs are between $1,000 to $3,000. Most couples have made that amount of money or spent that amount of money together, right? So they're going to say yes. You're going to say, great. How did you guys handle that? Right. So now you're going to see how they handled that. Oh, we did it on a payment plan. Oh, we paid it in full. Oh, we had to take out a loan, whatever it may be. And then from there, you're going to say, would you agree that you guys would handle this situation very similarly? Right. They're going to probably say yes. And you're going to say, would you be open to having this conversation with them? Right. They're going to say yes. And then you're going to try to move the thing forward. Okay. By that, I mean, quick phone call, have a conversation, or literally, if you're a true savage, literally just go for the close. You can say something to the effect of, awesome. So if you agree that we're the program that's going to help you reach X goal, if you believe that you want to reach X goal and that you're committed to doing this, if you believe that your husband or wife is going to support you, if you guys believe that you've worked through an investment of a similar size and had a game plan and agree that you guys are going to use the same exact game plan for this, then what are we waiting for? You know your husband's going to support you. You know that you guys are going to make this investment. Boom, let's go ahead and do it, right? So if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, that's how I would handle it. Ooh, that felt good. I haven't gone through that in a minute, but that felt pretty good doing it in real time. All right, so that's how you handle money. You handle money off of past agreements, right? Have you made a similar investment? How did you guys handle it? Would you agree that you would handle this situation similarly? Wow, that terrified me. Caitlin just sneezed and gave me a mini heart attack. So yeah, would you agree that you'd handle this situation similarly? And then you would go for the close, right? They're going to say yes, 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 yes. If you got those 3 yeses, there's nothing else they have to agree on. There's nothing else they have to talk about. Boom, move forward. All right, here's the second one, right? So the second one is the husband or wife does not trust the program or company, okay? So in this circumstance, what information this tells me that the spouse is probably a data-driven person and needs the proof, right? So likely this one is going to go to a follow-up. I hate to say it, it's likely going to go to a follow-up, and you're probably going to have to provide a crap ton of information and a crap ton of testimonials in order to win that spouse over. All right. If you have the opportunity, try to get them on the phone right then and there. Try to show them everything and try to catch them up to speed, try to win their trust. If not, then schedule the follow-up. All right, here's the last one. Remember, the last one is the spouse doesn't trust that the other spouse will actually follow through with the program for whatever reason. All right, so once again, here you're going to work off of past agreements. There is probably something in the past that the spouse that wants to do the program has accomplished, right? Has told their spouse, hey, I want to run this marathon, and then went and ran the marathon. There's probably a scenario like that, all right? So you're gonna work off of that past agreement, right? Just like we did with the money, in order to win the other spouse over, okay? So the way that looks is the one spouse has the conversation with the other spouse, uses that as an example. Hey, I know you don't think I can do this. I know 100%, you don't think that I'm going to follow through. Remember the time that, I told you I was going to run the marathon. I put in all the work and I did it. That's the mindset I have right now. I'm ready to commit to this. I would love your support. Let's go ahead and do it. And then hopefully the spouse that wants to do the program sells the other spouse and moves forward, right? And that's another aspect of this. If you are going to schedule a follow-up, and a lot of sales gurus are going to say, oh, you're not going to schedule a follow-up. In some circumstances, you're going to schedule a follow-up. It's not about scheduling the follow-up. It's about what you do between the original call and the follow-up, right? So for this particular circumstance, you have to coach the person that wants to join your program how to have the conversation with the spouse, because 9 times out of 10, the person that's trying to join your program is not a good salesperson. They're going to go to their spouse. They're going to say, hey, some fitness trainer wants to charge me $2,000 for a fitness program. And the spouse is going to say no. Okay. But if you can coach the spouse correctly and tell them, hey, this is what you need to say to your spouse to win them over. You need to say, if your spouse doesn't believe that you're actually going to follow through, you need to use some past experience as leverage. Remember the time that you said you were going to run the marathon? Remember the time you told your spouse you're going to do it? Remember the time that you showed them that you're going to do it? And remember the time that you accomplished it? Use that as leverage. Say you're in the same exact mindset in accomplishing this goal, and that you would love their support in the process, and then go for the close, right? So that's another aspect of this as well. All right, so I gave you what to do in the forum. Oh no, my tired brain is forgetting what I did second. Oh yeah, I told you the tactic that probably has worked for me the most, which is being ballsy, asking them to have the conversation right then and there and coming back with a decision. And then I gave you this as well, working off of past agreements and how to actually work through that, and what problems the spouse has and how to work through those problems as well. All right, so that's everything I got for you guys. I'm excited to be back in Austin. I'm very excited about business right now. Yeah, I'm really excited. Traveling is awesome, and it's great that we get to all work from our computer. But nothing is better, in my opinion, at least, than getting in really good business momentum and just fucking crushing it. And I'm ready to get back to that tomorrow. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, you guys know what to do. Screenshot it, tag me, post on your story. I will chit chat with you guys next time. Peace.